Yo, this is King Shaka.
Do you know what Gwaan is?
I'm a big fan of Gwaan.
You get to learn a new Jamaican patois word or even a Jamaican phrase.
I'm always looking forward for the great vibes, the great things. They discuss a lot of things that are going on in Calgary, across Canada, and of course Jamaica.
What is going on in Jamaica? But check out Gwaan. Watch Gwaan.
Very interactive. You learn a lot, and great vibes, great music.
Watch Gwaan.
Relevant and entertaining. So keep up the good work.
Watch Gwaan.
Tune in, share, listen to Gwaan.
Watch Gwaan.
Big up yourself. What a Gwaan. 2022. Bless you.
Like the man said, watch what a Gwaan, Pantapa, what a Gwaan. Yeah, greetings. My name is King Shadrach, and I'm going to be the host with the most from East, West, North, or South Coast for the program, What a Gwaan. See, let me introduce myself. I'm a reggae artist. I've been living in Montreal for a few times now. We toured some tour in Canada. I'm very close to the Jamaican community because you would say right now I'm the face of the Jamaica Association of Montreal. When it come on to entertainment, when it come on to cultural event, I work closely as an artist with the Jamaica Association, right? If you want to know a little bit more about King Shadrach, you can always check out kingshadrachmusic.com. This is about, you will see some of my videos, some of my music. And it is a pleasure for me to be the first host in this segment, in this fashion of the What a Gwaan movement. See? So we say What a Gwaan, Pantapa What a Gwaan. All right, so guess what happened now? We're going to introduce to you the patois word for the day. The patois word. So, because every week we're going to have a special patois word. The patois word is pasa pasa. That's the patois word for today is pasa pasa. So if you or anybody around you know the word pasa pasa, if you can create that, make a sentence out of pasa pasa, you can leave it in the comment and make sure say stay streaming. Stay streaming. Don't come off of the streaming. See? Remember, Facebook, YouTube, we are there. All right? So check us out. So pasa pasa, word of the day. See? So like the man them said, make it a date and don't blade. It's all about what a Gwaan. See? Yes. So that is me, King Shadrach, the host of the day with the most, right? So before we're going to further, we're going to recap some stuff that happened last week, right? Basically, we had some interview last week. If you were tuning, you would have seen you would have been able to see the last the Montreal Jamaica Association president Mark Henry. Manitoba's president was here also. Mavis McLaren, Calgary president, Jamaica Association president was here. David Pennant, and also Toronto Adomo Patterson. So we have a whole host last week of association, the leaders that are doing things in the Jamaican Canadian community with the Jamaica Association, and this was absolutely beautiful. Trust me, right? Before going further, let me tell you, if you are in and around the Canada area, or anywhere you are, make sure you stream live. If you haven't seen this last week, stay tuned, stream us live. All right? What a Gwaan, Pantapa what a Gwaan. I remember the patois word today is pasa pasa. All right? Remember me tell you. All right, cool. And now we're gonna do the program called What's Happening. So we have a music event coming up over there in Manitoba. It's Sunday Music Night with original Donovan, Nadia, and Charles. It's a Black History Month event, okay? So you can stream virtually. Calgary at 6 p.m., Winnipeg at 7 p.m., Toronto at 8 p.m. So make that a date and don't be late. All right. And over there, over in Calgary, we have the Caribbean Association of Calgary celebrate Black History Month, standing on shoulders of greatness, honoring generations who came before. So that's February the 25th, 2022, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Okay, so that's the Caribbean Association of Calgary. All right, so that's over there in Calgary, and over here, you see Montreal under the Caribbean Coalition Network. Montreal presents a celebration of national heroes and heroines. You know, we have to celebrate our heroes and our heroines. You understand me? Sunday, February the 27th at 4 p.m. So make it a date and don't be late. You understand? At that Gwaan. So guess what? Register for the Zoom. And the JCA Women's Committee presents, the Toronto JCA Women's Committee presents Woman Recognizing Women. That's beautiful. It's the 22nd annual International Women's Day event. Women who inspire change. It's going to be an award celebration, and that's on Sunday, March 13th from 2 o'clock to 3:30. And you can stream that live on the association, the Jamaican Canadian Association YouTube channel. All right. Tell him to King Shadrach to go check it out. All right. Make it a date and don't be late. So that the upcoming event coming up for the next events, a set of events that's going to be coming up. I hope everything is all right so far. I hope you guys enjoying the show so far. I want you to actually relax and enjoy this regional video that we have in regards to the Gwaan National Regional video. Take it away.
Jamaican food goes where Jamaicans go. No matter where Jamaicans go, they take the food with them. And even more, they expose their new community to the food. Once that is done, the rest is history. Calgary has seen many Jamaican food stores develop over time, and even mainstream big box stores like Walmart, Superstore, carrying many major brands and staples. If ever you're in Calgary, there are many options, and you should take some time to check out a few of them. Let's start with Lloyd's Patty Plus. Lloyd's is the king of Jamaican patties in Calgary. Made fresh in their location daily, you can get your beef, chicken, veggie patties straight from the oven. Lloyd's has been doing this for over 30 years in Calgary and enjoys more than anything the fact that his product is staple for Jamaicans and Canadians alike.
Some of them travel to Jamaica, some intend to travel because there's a lot of Canadians that go to the island and get married and blah, blah, blah. And most of the time, I do cater for them before they go and when they come back. So they know about the food before they go. And when they love the food when they go. And when they come back, they want to introduce their friends to it. I have to cater.
Crazy Jerk is another Jamaican restaurant serving Calgary. Known for their signature fritters and Barbie fried chicken, they have etched their mark in the city. A family-run brand since 2014, Crazy Jerk keeps people coming back for more. Covering the northeast quadrant of the city, Crazy Jerk knows that there is a strong desire for Jamaican food and ensures that they have a variety that meets the needs of their clients.
Jamaican people, they really just like that feeling. It brings them back home as to what their parents used to do, as far as this is grandma's cooking, right? You know, and Auntie Beta and all that stuff. So they really get that same Jamaican vibe, right? And the same homeliness. Like we treat the restaurant and all of our customers like you're back home. You go into somebody's yard and they say, come sit down and have some food, right? It's just a full blessing that way.
While you may want to dine out or grab some Jamaican food on the go, there are those who want to prepare their own Jamaican meals and sometimes grab a favorite. Bellyful. Bellyful is another source of Jamaican food in Calgary. It provides the real stuff. The The ingredients to make soup on Saturdays and curry goat, oxtail, rice, and peas on Sundays, as per Jamaican tradition. Not to mention the sweet stuff like drops, gizzada, tamarind ball. Everyone has their favorites, even Canadians who have gotten hooked on Jamaican cuisine. June Edwards, owner of Bellyful, knows too well what her patrons want and has it ready at all times.
Well, I get banana, I get yam, I get the sweet potato, I get the June plum, I get callaloo, I get all the nice things, all the goodies, the cheese, everything.
Next time you are in Calgary or even on your first visit, know that Jamaican food is here. There is Lloyd's, there's Crazy Jerk, and Bellyful, and lots more places with the real food that Jamaicans and Canadians know and have grown to love.
And that are going nationally. When you ask what are going, that are going nationally. No, so that was beautiful. It's good to see that our Jamaican culture is thriving, the food, the restaurant. You go, guys. I'm very, very proud of you. Actually, you know what? Make sure say when we come out there, right? You know, I'm in Montreal. So whenever I hear that King Shadrach is in town, make sure you give him some of that beautiful food, all right? Now, like we want to say, the word today is pasa pasa. If you probably, a lot of foreigners probably hear about the word pasa pasa. A lot of Jamaicans know the word pasa pasa. So me, I'm asking anybody out there who know, whoever use that term already or know the word pasa pasa, please write in the comment, give us a sentence in the comment how you would use the word pasa pasa. Where in what part of the sentence you would use the word pasa pasa. And we want to know, we want to hear, we want to find out from you. If you know the original meaning for the word pasa pasa, because some people talk about pasa pasa and then they really know the pasa pasa things. All right. So listen, it's about time. This is the time we've been waiting for, right? Now is the time to reason. So make we sit down and reason. Because now is the time and the season. See? So ladies and gentlemen, it's the reasoning time. Time to reason with Donovan Simon. Mr. Simon, how you stay, my boss, over there?
All right. What's up, Mr. Shadrach? Welcome to Gwaan. Glad to have you on board. And we're going to get into some reasoning, right?
It's my pleasure. Yeah, man. Thank you very much for having me, man. Before you go into the reason, we can answer a quick question. Have you ever used the term pasa pasa before?
Yeah, man. Especially when you don't want to mix up in a pasa pasa.
Okay, so we're gonna keep the way how you use it till later, right? For right now, because we want to see the people, we want to see who's writing the word and how they use the word pasa pasa in everyday activities. All right, so we won't say how we use it yet,
right. So,
after the reasoning, we reason some more about the pasa pasa. After we know what I go on. See?
All right, brother. We'll do.
All right, sir.
All right. So today, greetings to everybody. Different version of Gwaan as we go national. And today we're going to be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and how it has influenced Canada. We've got a great guest, Alain Babineau, who's going to talk to us about the issue. Let me bring him on screen and we'll start the conversation.
You better get on mute. How are you?
Oh, you're good, Alain. I'm good. How are you?
Wagwan.
What a going en français, s'il vous plaît?
What a going en français?
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Comment ça va?
Ça va. All right. So, folks, Alain come to us with a whole lot of experience, over 30 years in law enforcement with the Ontario Provincial Police, with the Canadian Military Police. He is also in the RCMP, which he left in 2016. He holds a Juris Doctor in Civil Law from McGill. He holds a Bachelor of Sciences in Criminology from the University of Ottawa and a BA in Legal Studies, plus a graduate diploma in conflict resolution from Carleton University. So brings to us a lot of experience, education, and know-how, and he does a lot of work in different places as it relates to criminology, racism, social profiling, etc. So, Alain, possibly let's start off. A few years ago, there were a lot of riots and stuff happening in the US and some protests in Canada from this movement called Black Lives Matter, right? We're still in Black History Month. How much change, if any, can we attribute to some of those activities here in Canada?
Well, I think the Black Lives Matter movement really shone the light on, I guess, stuff that we knew was going on for decades, right? In terms of police use of force, excessive use of force, and really the George Floyd incident, because it was captured on video for the whole world to see. I think it really brought it home even to Canada and the UK and all over the world, really. But the biggest difference, I think, in this particular instance was the fact that not only Black folks sort of took to the street, but also a lot of Caucasian folks did that as well. And so I think it was an awakening for a lot of them.
And many of the issues that are being brought to the fore are reflected to a certain extent in the criminal justice system, right? The inequalities seem to be highlighted there. Talk to us a little bit about the data and what we're seeing and what is happening as it relates to Black people in that space.
Well, you have to look at the criminal justice system as a continuum, right? It starts off with the police. I mean, the police is really a first entry into the criminal justice system when somebody either gets arrested or charged, right? But that's really the police have a lot of discretion in terms of whether or not they're going to be charging somebody. And so once they get into that system, then because we've seen that there's a lot of I guess stereotypes and also implicit biases within that system, that vulnerable people that don't have the means to defend themselves and to pay for lawyers, often end up having to plea bargain, and they're the ones that end up in jail most of the time. And so you see in Canada, Blacks and Indigenous people, for example, are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, simply for the simple reason that they draw more attention from the police. That's number one. And then once they get into the system, they don't necessarily have the means to hire the best defense lawyers to fight for them. And so that is really where a lot of changes have to take place.
And talk about the way the system sees it. I think you've implied to racial profiling. Is this a real thing? And do the departments, the police and the RCMP, I suppose police as well, do they see that as a real issue? Do they see that as a real thing?
Well, it's a real thing. I mean, there's no debating around that. It's been shown. The Supreme Court of Canada has recognized that it's a real thing. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court of Canada in the precedent referred to as R versus Lee in 2019 recognized not only does it exist, but it is systemic. In other words, it is part of the way things are done in the criminal justice system. not just the police, but in the criminal justice system. And a lot of it stems from, as I mentioned earlier, implicit biases, right? How people look at Black folks and Indigenous folks, and how they oftentimes uh, um, see them as more prone to criminalities than others, and they act on those implicit biases. And sometimes it's not implicit; sometimes it can be explicit biases. But generally speaking, it's formed based on stereotypes. I mean, people grow up in a society and develop a certain set of values and certain set of who they perceive as being prone to criminalities and violence and what have you through the media, through television, the newspapers, and it gets into your psyche, right? And so folks, police officers are just like the rest of human beings. They come from a society, right? If you learn from a young age that certain people are in a particular way, then once you become an adult and enter into the system in a profession, oftentimes those beliefs and those views will be reflected in the way in which you do your business, right?
Right.
So that's really what we're faced with, and that's why we call it systemic.
Right. But with all the riots, protests, in some cases, I'm going to say legislative and operational changes, is there any real sense that this profiling and some of the impacts of this systemic outcome is changing in any way?
Well, first of all, it'll change progressively, but we're looking at a cultural change. We're looking at a societal change. And what I mean by that is you're looking at a change in the school education system as to how we are portrayed in the education system, in history, for example. And so, because again, police officers are human beings, and lawyers are human beings, and they come from a society, a certain education system. And so, I mean, I often use this term, you can draft policies, and you can enact legislations, and you can sanction misbehavior, but you can't legislate goodwill.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that comes through a change in the way in which people interact with one another, in the way in which people view one another. I mean, look, it's kind of a funny thing. I've worked a lot with police services in the Caribbean, for example, right, where everybody is pretty much. I mean, you have East Indian or West Indian. You have blacks. You're in Guyana, for example. I worked in Guyana for a number of years, and I mean, you have people from East Indian descent. You have people from African descent. You have people that are mixed. You have Chinese. You have and there's discrimination and racism with those groups, anyways, right? And so. People will be judged upon, and becomes more of a social kind of profiling. If you come from a particular area in town or on the island, if that's you ask you where you from. Oh, I'm from Levantine. Well, I'm using Trinidad here, but Jamaica. I mean, I've been to Jamaica twice, man. My wife, as a matter of fact, listen, my wife is Jamaican, so I claim for 36 years we've been married, so I claim that nationality now.
That's fine.
I'm good. But so they are, and last time we were there, we visited Trenchtown, for example. So if you tell people you're from Trenchtown, obviously, automatically they have this kind of view of who you might be, like, what your background, and it might treat you in a particular way. So that's the same thing here. So here in North America, because of the, in a colonial past, and you're looking at slavery, you're looking at Jim Crow United States, you're looking at not societal racism in this country. I mean, it was not formally legal racism as they had in the United States, but it was societal in terms of in segregation and discrimination in this country, where people were segregated in certain area. It wasn't so much legal. I mean, at some point it was slavery, but ultimately it become more part of really segregated, putting people in certain areas, right? And so that sort of translated into the development of views and perceptions and policies and practices in certain in the policing, for example.
Yeah.
And so that's what we call systemic racism.
There's lots of things that have happened out of the George Floyd incident, outside of what happened in the courts. And when we look at Canada, for example, do we feel that that was kind of a watershed that has shone more light on certain issues and has awakened more consciousness, especially in Black people?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. It did. Did it last? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I like to see action in consistent action. It doesn't have to be marches. It doesn't have to be protests, but it has to be consistent, holding the system accountable in a fair fashion, in democratic fashion, but it has to be consistent. And one of the things that I found is, out of the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, which it's a movement, so there's different school of thought within that movement, right? There was school of thought, for example, that believe in terms of reallocating certain responsibilities from the police to other agencies, social agencies, for example, reallocating some of the funding to social agencies and so on. But in my opinion, it was not well articulated. And so what it created a lot of resentment from the institutions that, look, you're not going to take away money from me. We don't have enough money to begin with. We're short, And so you had another fringe of the movement that said, well, we need to abolish the police altogether.
Right. Yes.
And that is a pretty challenging proposition to make in this society, in my opinion. And so, nevertheless, I think overall the movement was good because it really garnered a lot of support from folks that were kind of oblivious to the issues prior to that. But I think we need to be consistent and then hold the powers to be accountable in terms of laws, in terms of legal changes, in terms of policy making. And so we can't give up. We can't give up.
Yeah, it seems like an ongoing thing. And when we talk about holding accountable and leadership, we've had many of movements over the years, right? From Malcolm X, Garvey, all the rest of those great leaders. But here we are in 2022, still having this conversation. What will it take to sustain the movement, Ali?
Well, as I said, we got to keep at it. We got to get politically engaged. Folks have a tendency not to. Well, some folks have a tendency not to vote because they don't believe in the system.
Right.
Well, be that as it may, it's the system we have to work with it. And I think we need to elect people in position of being able to affect meaningful changes. We have to work for us within that system.
Right.
And so that's through the ballot box, right? So we need that. And we need to keep on keeping folks and agencies accountable for their promises. When they make promises, then you hold them to account. You said this, when are you going to do it? And you keep at it. And so, and the reality is that in a country like Canada, where we are in a minority, and we're always going to be in a minority, although, proportionately, I mean, Black communities are growing in Toronto and Montreal, and and visible minority population at large are growing as well. But I suspect we will, you and I will probably always be in a minority. Maybe our kids or great children will see that kind of balance. But so we have to work within that majority, and that doesn't mean we have to bow down to injustice.
Right.
But at the same time, we need to be constructive in the way in which we demand changes.
Yeah. While we're demanding these changes, and we're getting to wrap up here, the issues continue. We still see the videos of other cases like George Floyd, of other cases of injustice, of other cases of racial profiling. What's the message that we give to the community while this is happening continuously?
You can't give up. You can't give in. You need to hold the people that you've elected accountable. You need to insist on getting a fair and equitable police service, and a police service that's representative of the population. And you got to keep at it, because there's no other option. We can't give up. We can't give in. Our forefathers never give up. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. And we just got to keep at it. But the ballot box is something that, unfortunately, I don't think in a Black community, and not just here in Montreal, but elsewhere in the country, oftentimes folks don't come out. You got to come out. You got to put people in position to help, to work for you.
Yeah, what I'm hearing there, and just to extend that a little bit, because it's one thing to get out and exercise the franchise of voting. The other thing is, who are you voting for? So do we see how many of our people being on the ballot for those who we're asking to go to mark the ballot?
Right. Well, that's another thing, right? Folks have to be willing to take the plunge. In this day and age, getting into politics is a pretty risky proposition. But I believe in Cornel West has this notion of moral reasoning versus racial reasoning. Sometimes we think that because we have a Black face over here, that we're going to vote for this Black face is going to work for us.
Right.
Like we don't care about the person's morals and ethics and what have you. And I think that we need to be a bit more but selective in terms of who we want to represent us and to work for us.
Right.
Because we've seen examples of that in the United States. I mean, Thurgood Marshall used to be a great Supreme Court justice when he was there and did a lot of things for us. But his replacement, Clarence Thomas, has not been really on the side of progressive thinking. And so I believe in moral reasoning. We need to have people that believe in changes and believe in equity and are going to do the right things for our communities. And I think that's what we need. But again, getting into politics can be it's not an easy proposition. Not everybody wants to. It's particularly nowadays. I mean, it takes a lot of guts.
What Butch Banton says, it's not an easy road.
No man.
All right, listen, we could go on forever talking about this, but time calls. We appreciate the time, Alain. We appreciate your insight, and thanks for taking the time to join us for a time of reasoning here on Watergwan.
Thank you very much, Donovan. Really appreciate it. And pasa. I'll have to look it up.
All right, peace. Take care, man.
Brother. All right.
Time of reasoning, and we'll do this each week as we continue to broaden the scope of Watergwan and push it out nationally. All right, where's Shadrach? We have a little reasoning.
Watergwan.
I don't see any comments or questions out there, but this whole issue of Black Lives, Shadrach, it keeps happening, it keeps going. What do we have to do, especially for you as a musician, for example? What's the message you put in your music about Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, well, I have a song called Black Man. You can check it out online on YouTube. It's called Where is our black man? And where is our black plan? Somebody asked me, where is our leaders? We're looking for our black liberators. Right now, Marcus Garvey would have turned in a grave just to see how the black people are behave. We now unite amongst ourselves, we now trade. We stop from plant from the enslavery days. We kill you one another, still add to the grave. It seems like we broke a piece of tick in our ears. It looks like we broke a yeah, so that's how so this is the thing, you know.
Yeah. So what may I hear out of that though, Shadrach, is we have to unite, and the messages have been around for a while. That's true.
Yeah, the message has been around for a while because we call ourselves Trini, Guyanese, Jamaican. So already we separate up the thing. That kind of mash up the thing already. You know, we don't see ourselves as the same diaspora. So even just that alone, you know, you realize, boy, there's a lot of healing we need to do, you know, amongst ourselves, so we can even point fingers on anybody else. You understand what I mean? Because it's you have to build it inside from inside of we first. You know,
right,
have a love for one another. We have to have a love for each other first before we can. I think that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and we also have to drive some of the changes at the political level as well. People have to get into leadership, and people have to embrace that leadership, not just in a what should I say, symbolic way, but with some real meat behind it in order to make it move, right?
Yeah, well, I believe that Alain, he struck a very good point, because like he said, not because a man have a black face means that, you know, just going up, because, you know, our master put black faces in the house to keep certain things under control. You understand what I mean? So we have to, I mean, look, I'm talking as an artist. I'm an artist, right? And I'm trying to look at something from a point of view as an international and not even national. I don't believe that you would go conquer a land, put some people for work the land, and then give the people them a freedom for the land. I don't think you would ever do that. So if we look, I don't feel say in this place, in this environment, what we're asking for, it's gonna be possible because of the constitution that has been developed for us to be here. The history, we have to check into history and see how we got here in that sense of it. You know, our history is bigger than just that. But the concept, what I'm trying to tell you is, you can't, you know, think some man gonna conquer some things, and you treat the people when take it from, bring some other people come work the land and then give it to the people and understand the content. So no, I don't think the moment.
That's true. All right, brother. Well, great reasoning with Alain and great reasoning with you. Once again, like I said, you know, welcome to Gwaan. And you know, we look forward to having some more fun as the weeks go by, right?
Yes.
All right,
listen, I want to say thank you very much for having me. To be honest with you, you know, it's fun. I mean, I think this is I would like to be able to make sure we send this to all of my brethren, the Jamaican people, them, to make sure we can know, so boy, we talking about our thing where we can. I feel comfortable. We can chat my patois openly, and you know what I mean. We don't speak English and a little bit of French, but we can chat with patois, yes, and we say thank you, because that I go on. See.
All right, brother. Well, all right, cool. Well, good. Until next week, I'm gonna leave it to you now. All right.
All right, sir. Bless it. Yeah, like we said, what a Gwaan. Now we're looking at make sure say you guys follow us on the on Facebook. Follow what a Gwaan on Instagram and also on YouTube. All right. So remember, every Friday we're gonna be here. Make it a date and don't be late. And I think Shadrach is gonna be your host next week. See? So check it out. Back to you guys. Okay, so next week, what we have in next week is on what I go on next week. And the national, we have Captain Kevin Jr. is gonna be here. We have Dr. Silvano Thompson is gonna be here. And the topic we're talking about next week is the economic and civic impact of Jamaicans in the diaspora. That's our topic next week. So make sure you guys come check it out. Next week on What a Gwaan National. We'll be talking to Dr. Sylvanus Thompson and Captain Kevin Jr., okay, long-time captain, retired captain right now. We'll be talking with Donovan right here from 9 to 10. Make it a date and don't be late. All right? Yes, and we're back to